Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Unlock Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. My pleasure to be here finally with you guys this morning. I want to have a little bit of I suppose I'm going to allow you to have a bit of a giggle at me today. Been one of those mornings, I just have to say. You're probably realizing if you're watching live right now on Facebook or YouTube, you're like, hey, Trace, your banner or your notification says that you weren't going to be going live till 10:30 tonight, and here you are, and it's just after 10:45 this morning here, Friday in Australia. Anyway, bit of a story, bit of a whirlwind morning I've had. Don't know if I'm Arthur or Martha today. It's like I said, it's been one of those days, and I wonder whether it's got something to do with all these long weekends that we've been having here in Australia. We've got 3 kind of long weekends in a row, all back to back, and it just really throws you out with what the heck day it is and what time it is. So anyhow, I'm grateful to be here with you guys finally. Got the time right anyway, managed to get myself to go live. And today I want to talk about personal branded websites and whether or not you actually need one or why you actually need one. And this conversation was actually stimulated because I was having a chat with somebody else who contacted me yesterday about her websites and what she was doing with her business, etc. And one of the questions I asked her was, do you have your own personal branded website? And she said, no, I don't, but should I? So that kind of gave me the idea for today's show. Also, when I was thinking about some of the stuff that's been going on kind of from a social media standpoint, and with Elon Musk now buying Twitter, and the rumors that have been going around that, hey, Elon has purchased Twitter, and he's going to shut it down. That, is also one of those things that hopefully for you guys, it's been making you think about the danger in having all of our information, or having a really heavy reliance on these platforms to be able to market ourselves, give ourselves, a presence and create our influence and authority, building upon those particular platforms. So I want you to think about this. If you don't have your own personal branded website, because most people would say, why do I even need it, right? Because I've got Twitter, I've got LinkedIn, I've got Facebook, I've got Instagram, I've got TikTok, I've got all these different social media platforms. Surely people can find me there. Why the heck do I need to have my own personal branded website? Well, if you just think about that statement that I just mentioned a little bit earlier about Elon Musk purchasing Twitter, and the fact that he actually does have, whether he's going to shut Twitter down or he's going to keep it alive, doesn't really matter. The fact is he has the power to be able to do that. Now, what if that actually happened across a whole bunch of different social media platforms? So you've spent a whole lot of sweat, tears, time, building out your profiles on various different platforms, only to find that they're now purchased by somebody else, and boom, in one fell swoop, that Thanos, that we've heard of. That's something that one of my mentors used to talk about, Thanos coming along and just kind of sweeping the leagues out from under you, and all of a sudden what you've worked so hard for to build your profile and what have you is now gone. That is an absolute reality, and it could happen. So that leads me to the very first reason that you should actually create your own personal branded website, because then who's in control of that? Not Elon Musk, not somebody else who owns Facebook or Instagram or any of those platforms. You do. You would then own it, and you can do with it what you like. You can be the person that decides to shut it down or keep it going or pivot or do whatever you want with it. The other reason that I think it's really important for you to consider building a website of your own is you want to think about it as being like your central hub. And when I think about me doing shows like this, Unlocked with Tracy Wilson, most people actually go and start Googling me. They will go and look for Tracy M. Wilson. And when they do that, what's going to happen? My personal branded website is going to come up because they're going to want to find out more about me. So more than likely, people will remember your name. They won't necessarily always remember the name of your business. So at least that gives you, the opportunity to be able to have more of a relationship with someone because they've taken the time to actually Google you and get to your website, and then they can then explore more about what you do. The third reason that I think is really important here, and a lot of people again would think, why do I need a personal branded website when I've got my own business websites? And I'm on that, I'm on the about page, I'm on the founders page, the owner, etc., etc. Well, depending on the reasons why you started that business or what your intentions are with that business further down the track. So let's say you build it up to a certain point and now you want to sell it. So you sell that business and all of a sudden, again, that platform that you've spent a whole lot of time building up, that website that's centered around your business is now being sold to somebody else. And you no longer have that following. Because if you had your own personal site, then of course those people that have gone to your personal branded website, they may just opt in. They may decide that they want to do more business with you on your personal website, and you're able to take that with you no matter what happens further down the track. So those are kind of the big reasons why I think it's really important to do, just take some time to consider building out your own personal branded website with your name, like I do. I have tracymwilson.com. That's where people go to find out more about me. And a lot of the time on my show, I'm also giving away free stuff. I give a lot of business information on there. People can listen to some of the versions of the show that maybe they've missed, all sorts of things that they can actually get by going to my personal branded website. Now, I want to cover off just a couple of other, I suppose, key reasons why, in my opinion, it's really important to have your own personally branded website. Let's say it gives you some level of protection because you're able to have control over that site. It also enables you to stand out from the crowd. So not everybody has their own personal website, right? Almost everybody has a Facebook page, but very few actually take the time to create their own personal site. So, it's really going to help you to stand out from the crowd, enable you to be maybe seen and can be able to be competitive with some other people in your market, and it legitimizes what it is that you do. Like people will say, oh, wow, they must be legit. They've got a website, so it really does help to elevate your status in that manner. It also is going to provide you with some form of global reach, just like you have with your social media. But like I said, this is global reach and a site that you actually own. You have total control over it. And it enables you to build connections with other like-minded people. So again, I'm just going to use my personal branded website as a bit of an example. But if you go there, you'll see that I have an opportunity for people to be able to opt in to some of the things that I share. They want business advice or information about how to create their own show or their own online program, or even, excuse me, some information about how to publish their own book. You can go there and get that kind of information on my website. Equally, you can, go there and you could ask to be a guest or apply to be a guest on the Unlock Show. So there's all sorts of ways that I enable people to be able to communicate and continue to have a relationship with me through my website. And all the while, as that's happening, obviously I'm building my database. If I ever sold any one of my other businesses or my other brands, this particular website, my personal branded one, is not impacted. And it's unique. Nobody else can go and purchase tracymwilson.com now. Why? Because I've got it. I own that domain. And I would encourage you to go and purchase your own name as a domain so that you too are able to create your own website. So what are some of the steps? So as you guys know, particularly on a Friday, I like to make sure that I give you really actionable things that you can do. So if you're sitting back now thinking, gosh, yeah, I would like to do that. I would like to be able to position myself as an expert. I would like to be able to give myself that sense of security because I own my own site and I actually own the domain with my own name, then I want to make sure that I give you some actionable steps that you can take away and you can actually implement, and you can actually get your own personal website up, as I said in the little notes that description I put in the show, in a jiffy, because what I'm going to share with you is going to make it really, really simple for you to do it. So the very first thing you want to do, and I'm going to say this even if you're not in a position right now that you want to build your personal branded website, the one thing I would say, go away and actually purchase the domain name. So what I mean by that is, like, I've purchased tracymwilson.com. Tracy Wilson, Wilson being so frigging common, and so it was Tracy. I couldn't get Tracy Wilson, but I could definitely get Tracy M. Wilson. So get a version of your name that you can use to personally brand yourself with. And go and grab that. So you could go to places like GoDaddy or Crazy Domains or Bluehost or any one of those kind of platforms to purchase the domain. So that's kind of step number one. And once you've got that domain, then you're going to be able to build a website using that domain as your web address. The second thing you want to do is you then want to explore a website platform. And I'm going to share with you one today, and I'm going to be upfront and honest. I'm a bit biased here. Why? Because I'm the owner of this particular brand that I'm going to share with you. You've heard me talk about it on the show before. It's called Usability. I'll pop it up on the screen. And while I mention this, I'm going to let you guys know that because you are listeners of the Unlock Show, you can also use the code Unlocked, and it will give you a 14-day free trial. Let me just pop this up here. Give you a 14-day free trial, and it will also give you 10% off if you decide to use the platform long term. So head on over to Usability, Usability.com, and you'll be able to start creating your own personal branded website. The other thing you can do with that is, once you've got an account, you can put all of your websites in the one account, so that it makes it super easy for you to be able to manage them all. And there's a whole bunch of other features that Usability has that just makes life a whole lot simpler for you. And I might talk a little bit more about those in just a few moments. But you want to get a domain first and foremost, then find yourself a platform that is going to be suitable for you. Usability is a great platform in the sense that if you want a personal branded website, you can totally do it there. It takes care of all of if you've got a business, if you're a coach, consultant, or small business owner, this will take care of everything for you as well. Okay, so once you've done that, you've sorted yourself out with a domain, and you've got yourself you know what platform you're going to use. The next thing you want to think about doing is actually making a plan. Now, most people kind of skip this. They just think, oh, I've got to create myself. And this goes for, whether you're creating a website for you personally, or if you're doing it for a business. You want to think through these things. Now, if you're working with a company who's going to actually build the website for you, more than likely they will go through this process with you. But if you're going to, do it yourself, you want to consider these things so that you have a solid plan before you kind of get stuck in and start building out stuff and then find, oh crap, I built something that's not quite what I wanted. So the very first thing you want to do is create yourself a plan. So just create yourself a website map. And this is kind of like the starting point to help you create, we will call it the site map. What sort of things you want to have on your website. You want to have a home page, an about page, a contact page, might be some products, might be the services that you have. Like, you're thinking through all of these things and just jotting them down. And it doesn't have to be, on anything pretty. It can just be grab a pen and a paper and just start thinking about the stuff that you want to have appear on your website. The next thing you want to do is you want to create yourself a very basic wireframe. What the heck's a wireframe? It's basically black and white. You can just use pen and paper to do this, and just start drawing out, each page that you have. So again, your home page, your about page, your contact us page, so on and so forth. And just think about, on each of those pages, what are the elements that you want to have on each of those pages? So it might be an image, it might be some text, it might be an opt-in or some sort of offer that you have on each page. It might be a contact form, whatever it is. You're just going to jot those down. And you can do it in stick figure, picture format is what a wireframe would look like anyway. And just start jotting those down. Because again, when it comes time for you to get stuck in and start building using something like Usability, it's going to make the process really, really easy, because you'll simply be able to drag and drop the elements that you want onto the page. And the last thing, or the third thing you want to think about in the planning phase, is the creative brief. what is it that you actually want this website to do? What is your intention with it? What are you hoping to achieve from it? What does success look like with it? Some of those things, what is the message that you want to get across? What do your visuals look like? Do you have a logo? And I would recommend go get yourself a personal logo. And again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be something that you made inside of Canva, for example, just, with some cursive writing. That would be sufficient for you to be able to create a website with your own name. So you want to put all of these things, just jot them all down, get them out of your head, get them into some form of document. And that way, again, when it comes time to actually build it, you've already got all the information there rather than having to go away and start thinking about things mid-build. You just don't want to be doing that. All right, then we get to the point of, okay, what am I going to do now? Now that I've kind of thought through what I want and I know my intention of my website, I know what I want it to achieve, am I going to give this a crack myself as do it the DIY way, or do I need to enlist some expert help? And if I do need to enlist some expert help, what kind of help might I need? And I'm going to say, if you use usability, it will make it a heck of, could you do it DIY yourself? Absolutely. And why do I say that? Because I've got some amazing templates already built into the system. You simply pick a template and then it's just a simple drag and drop. Or you just copy in the information that you want into the template that has already been created for you. So it makes it really, really simple. But you'll figure that out when you get in there and you do your 14-day free trial. You'll see how simple it is. But what are some of the things that you need to think about when you're creating your website? Well, the first is, your website's going to need to have some form of copy on it. The words that are on the page. Now, you could either write those yourself, or better still, in this case, you might want to think about enlisting a copywriter. Why do I say that too? One is, you might not be very good at writing the copy. You might get a little bit stuck there. But secondly, often we don't always find the right words to really make ourselves shine. A lot of the time we're, humble, you sort of seem to, we can tend to water our own skills and our own abilities down, whereas somebody else will actually look at you, they will draw out the best in you and then be able to encapsulate all of that into some form of copy, whilst also making sure that the information that they are creating or the words that they're creating for you very much appeal to your audience. And then the third thing that they're going to make sure that they do is that it's actually going to be able to be seen by the search engine. So search engine optimization, which you would have heard about, I've spoken about it with some guests on a show previously, but search engine optimization definitely is something you want to consider, and that fits into the category of copywriting. The next is your graphic design. And again, inside of usability, it's got some great templates. So you pretty much just switch out some images. But I've seen people take, a really pretty templated website and turn it really ugly by their choice of graphic design. So again, it does pay to just get a little bit of help. If that's not your forte, if you're not very good at the graphic design side of things, again, I would encourage you to find somebody that can help you with that. And you can do that relatively cheaply, using places like Fiverr and the like. So, you can get some help there. The second is the development. So it's the technical side of things, like the person that can actually get in there and build the website for you. Now, again, it isn't really that hard, but there's a little bit of a learning curve, and you need to obviously, be signed up mentally that you are going to embark on this process of learning how to create your own website. And I applaud you if you do. I think it's the best thing to do. Why? Because then you know exactly how it works. You can make any changes that you need. You're not going to be held to ransom by somebody else, having to pay, sometimes some extra astronomical kind of fees for them to create your website for you. Doing it yourself, I'm totally for that. And I love to support people that are willing to get in there and give it a go. The development. And if you want some help, the team at Usability are fantastic. They will also be able to help you to develop out your personal personal or business branded website, if that's what you choose to do. I've already covered off search engine optimization, which is kind of the words that we use and where we place them on, in the website, so that when people are searching through Google, that your website has the best possible opportunity of showing up in the lineup of searches for them, so that they then can obviously come in and do some business with you. And then the last thing is thinking about conversions. So it's one thing to actually have people come to your site, it's another to actually get them to convert. So whether that means that they actually convert into buying something, whether it means that they convert into being a subscriber, you want to be thinking about that and looking at your analytics so that you understand where the drop-off points are, or where some of the, I suppose, the problem points are in your website. And again, you'll learn a lot of this stuff over time as you start diving in and start working your way around a program such as usability, or any other program for that matter, or you could hire somebody to actually keep an eye on that stuff for you. You essentially take on the roles that you are comfortable with. If there's any of those roles that you think, gosh, I'm just not quite there in that area, then you might decide to employ somebody to help you. But equally, I'm going to say, get in there and give it a go. When you're building out your own website, and particularly when you're doing it yourself, you'll realize that nothing is set in concrete. You can change it anytime you like, and as your skills get better and better, you can jump right in and start updating your site, improving the imagery and improving the copy as you go. But important for you to be able to do that. And the next questions that people might have is, okay, so what are the important things that I would need to have on my website? Now, this goes from, it doesn't matter what pages you have on there. I'm just going to rattle off a few things that you might want to consider, so that when you're doing your website planning, you can also take these into consideration at that time too. So the first thing is like your headers, and you want to think about it as, like, we call them the hero images. It's like the images that people would see when they first hit your website, because you know that the top third of the page, right, is going to be what they see first. They're not going to see all the prettiness or the amazing words that you have on the page further down. They're only going to see what's at the top. So that part of your website is extremely important, and you want to make sure that you're speaking directly to your audience in, as high up on the website as you possibly can. That gives you the best opportunity. And just remember that when you start to, you then take a website that's on a big screen and you kind of squeeze that down onto a mobile, just remember that it's going to be, you've got less space. You can do a lot of things to optimize it from a mobile perspective, but just think about that. The next is your hero shot. And I'm talking about, in the context of it being a personal branded site, that's the hero shot of you. So taking the time to go and get a professional photograph done, or if you've got a family member that takes really fantastic photos, then, get them to do that too. You want to grab something that really, highlights who you are, shows who you are, and enables you to connect directly with your audience. And often I'd say, you want to make sure that you're actually looking at the camera, so that you feel like you've got that level of connection, so that when they get to your website, they're connecting with you. You're not looking away up into the clouds and that sort of stuff. Although I've got some pictures like that are a little bit more lifestyle. I think that the picture that you have on the front screen of your website should really be one that's looking at your audience, because your eyes often tell a big story about you. So it's the hero shot of you, and just making sure that the background is again, appeals to your audience. Often they'll look at it and they'll go, hey, she's just like me. She's a mum, she's at home, she's in her home office, whatever the case may be, or she's out on a boat. Depending on what your audience is into, then you would most likely take one of your shots in that kind of environment, because then they're able to almost transport themselves into that environment with you. Then we've got calls to action. So throughout your website, you want to make sure that you have these. And what was quite interesting is, I was telling you a little bit earlier about a conversation I had with somebody yesterday, and she was saying, I was looking at her website and there were no calls to action on it. She was saying, I've got loads and loads of people coming to my site, but I can see that they're not real, they're going away. I've got loads and loads of people following me on socials, but that's not translated into my sales, nor is it translated into my database. And it makes it really difficult for that to happen when you don't have the opportunity for people to opt in or purchase something from you. So really important that you have, those calls to action or some way of being able to capture people's data and information so that you can continue to serve them at the highest possible level. Now, I just want to pause for a moment here because I also want to say anytime you have any kind of opt-in on your site, you need to make sure that you comply with privacy policies and legislation around the world. A couple of days ago on Wednesday, I had Hans Skilrud on my show. I would recommend that you go back and you watch or listen to that show because he gives some great information about the legalities and the legal requirements that we have of what we need to put onto our website. And I can say, in usability, you'll be able to do that really, really simply. But go and listen to that podcast and that show because he gives you some great information about that. So calls to action and also forms on your page, really important. Again, for the simple fact that people have taken the time to go to your website, hopefully because they want to know more about you, or they probably want to buy something for you or figure out, who are you, invite you to something. There's a reason why they are there, hopefully not just to spam you, but there's a reason why they are there. And you want to make sure that you give them a reason to be able to come back. You give them a reason to be able to continue the conversation with them. And that's often by creating some form of offers, by way of lead magnets or opt-ins or a contact form or some way of them being able to continue that conversation with you. The next things that you want to put on your website are what we call trust builders. Now, what are these trust builders? Now, these are elements that you can have. You can sprinkle them throughout your website. You have things like testimonials. You might have some accolades for awards that you have won. You might have certifications that legitimize what it is that you are about. You might have a membership site on there, an ability for people to be able to become a member of your community and learn more about what it is that you teach or what it is that you share. You might also you absolutely want to make sure that you have these, particularly if you have any checkouts. You want to make sure that you have the security symbols on your website. People want to know that they can trust that you are legitimate and that their information is safe with you. So just making sure that you have all of those, all of the security features enabled on your site. Ratings and reviews, privacy statements, as I've just mentioned, and also guarantees. All of those things are all what we call trust builders. And then there's some other things that are really useful to have, like internal search, searchability. So you can have an ability for somebody to be able to come to your site. Maybe they go to the Tracy Wilson site and they're looking for specific information about how to create their own live show. They could actually type into the search bar and put that in, and it would bring up any blog that I've written in with that particular subject matter, any show that I've done, etc., etc. So it just makes it easy for people to be able to find things. Again, an example of this, looking at this person's website yesterday, they had there was one big ticket item that they get asked about all the time. And I was like, oh, let me see if I can find it. Well, I'm scrolling, and I couldn't find it, right? It was buried deep in the store. So just making sure that whatever, if you've got some, items that are hot sellers, you want to bring them, to the forefront so that people can find them really, really easily, making sure that your site's user-friendly. Share buttons and follow buttons, they go without saying. You want to make sure that you pick up, any, I'm going to call it free advertising, free marketing, people coming to your site and having the opportunity to be able to share what they've learned from you simply by clicking a button is fantastic. And then also making sure that you utilize the space that you have in your footer of your website to give any other, important information. So those are some of the things that I would consider having on your website. Is that it's a fairly broad list? Is there more? Yes. And if you wanted to, explore that even further, we absolutely can. And you can just organise a time to have a chat with one of the team at Usability, and they'll help you work your way through what your website should have on it and help you get started with usability really, really quickly. Okay, I mentioned a little in that spiel of all the things that you should consider having on your website, and a lot of these things kind of cross over in both personal and business, right? Why? Because your intention will be to grow your database, is to enable you to be able to continue to have conversations with people and enable them to buy from you, whether it be today or further down the track. That's what you want. Not to mention the fact that once you build out your database and you've got a list of ongoing clients, that it's going to increase the value of your business. So if in time you want to sell it, that database is going to be a very valuable asset for you. Now, I also mentioned that you want to build out this database and this email list. So you want to think about some of the things that you can offer. So on your personal branded website, what are the things that you stand for? What are some of the things that people ask you about on the regular? Consider creating, whether it's an ebook, whether it's some sort of freebie giveaway, a worksheet, a workbook, a video, a webinar, a toolkit, an assessment, whatever the case may be. Create something like that. Again, that's going to give them some value in exchange for their email and their name and email, so that you can start growing your database and, like I said, continue that relationship with them. But there's all sorts of different ways that you can create your lead magnets or your opt-ins that will make it easy for you to be able to grow your database, but equally, more importantly, for you to be able to continue the relationship and continue to add value to your, to those people that have taken the time out to come to your website. So I'm hoping that today's session has kind of given you a really high-level brain dump. These are all the things that you need to consider and why it's so important for you to, at the very least, go and buy your domain. Because if you're not thinking about building your own personal branded website today, you might hear from another expert down the track that, hey, you've got to buy it, you've got to create your own personal branded website. And the day you try and go and do that, somebody else already heard that message, 12 months ago, and they purchased the domain. So head on over and get yourself the domain at the very least, and then you've got some options. Then you can sit back, you can think about, do I want to do this today? Is it a today thing? Do I want to do it next week or even next year? At least you've secured that website address for you. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about usability. If you decide you want to go down that path and you want to create yourself a free trial, what will that enable you to do? I mentioned right at the beginning that usability will enable you to have one account and you can have multiple websites within it, depending on which plan you purchase. And the plans start from as little as $19.95 a month. So it's not a huge money that you have to lay out to get yourself started, and you get yourself started for $0 because you get a 14-day free trial and you get to play and you decide whether or not you want it. But you can build your websites, you can build your funnels, your membership sites. You've got a CRM inside of there. You've also got email marketing, and there's a whole raft of other things that you can do inside of usability. But like I said, what I would recommend you do, head on over, get yourself a free trial, and don't forget to use the discount code UNLOCKED if you decide that you want to go down the path of actually using usability on the regular. And then once you do, if you've got any questions about it, you can reach out to the team at youzability.com, and they will be able to help you with any questions that you have. So I'm hoping that today you've learned a thing or two about why you should create your own personal branded website. I can't wait to see them. Let me know in the chat, actually, or in the chat section, that have you got your own personal branded website? Have you gone down that path and created it? And let me know where I can find you, so I can head on over and say hello, or get yourself on, get yourself started with usability. I'm just going to just jump over here to some of the comments and the questions that I've got here. So let me just read them. All right, somebody's just asking, should I get a website with the extension .net if my name is already taken? You absolutely can. What I find, here's an interesting one, and this is my personal view. What I find is most people default to it especially here in Australia, default to the .com or .com.au. So for instance, if I had tracywilson.net and people go, and there was already somebody who had tracywilson.com, and most people would default to the .com, I'm probably going to be sending a whole lot of traffic to her site, right? So when it comes to the name, I would just think about what is the most common extension used in your country. If .net is what is commonly used, I know in America they use .net a lot, particularly here in Australia and New Zealand, it's .com, .com.au or .co.nz is pretty common in both of those countries. So just think about what's common in your country and where your audience resides. If you are global, in the ideal world, you grab the .com. And in my case, as you can see, I couldn't get tracywilson.com, so I grabbed the tracymwilson.com, and I use that to build my own personal brand using the tracymwilson.com brand. So anyway, I hope that answers that question for you. Any other questions that you have that are in relation to building out your personal brand, trying to, how do I go about creating my influence and building my influence and my authority? How do I get my message out there? Then I would encourage you to head on over to Tracy M. Wilson. Just drop me go to my contact page, drop me a message, and, let's have a bit of a chat, and I'll give you some pointers or some tips that might be able to help you. I'm happy to do that on a personal conversation. And and hopefully you'll go away and you'll get yourself started, and you just never know. You might decide that you want to, get out of your comfort zone and crack yourself out of that little shell that you've created for yourself, the safe zone, and start your own show just like this. Saying that, guys, I'm going to wish you guys a fantastic weekend. We've got another long weekend here, as I said, in Australia. Really mucks you up and throws you around when you've got kind of that many long weekends in a row. But I'm going to say we absolutely enjoy it. It's people, I think, especially my husband, could get used to doing these 4-day weeks. I think he absolutely loves it. 3-day weekends, I reckon that's the way to go. But anyhow, lucky for me, I'm able to create that any way I want. If I want to do a 3-day week, I can, because being your own business owner, you have that flexibility and the opportunity to be able to do that. But I want to say thanks very much for joining me today. I'm Tracy Wilson, and I'll see you guys again next Wednesday. Got another amazing guest for you guys, and I'll see you then. Have a fantastic weekend. Alrighty, bye for now.